Hey, what's going on? Jay here, and if you've been following my channel for more than 5 minutes, you should get the vibe already that I am a huge water cooling advocate. That should really come as no surprise. And I've watched water cooling kind of take off and then simmer down and take off again over the 12 years I've been doing it, and I've really been trying to make people comfortable with building their own custom water cooling loops, especially when you don't really have to do all the legwork to make sure you get all the right parts. When you have nice complete kits in a box like this one here from EK, which happens to be the EK X360 kit, you don't have to worry about having enough fittings or having all the right adapters because it's all in the box. Well, what if you're still not comfortable with that? Maybe your problem wasn't buying the parts or picking the parts, it was just being afraid of assembling it. Now, even though I've done some how-to water cool your PC videos showing just how simple it is, I understand that there are folks out there who still just don't want to go that route. So what do?
Well, you stay subscribed and you keep watching my channels and you grow a pair.
I'm just kidding. Okay, that was uncalled for. But if you still are not willing to take the leap of faith and try to do your own custom loop, you do have an option, because EK has just launched their EKWB Predator all-in-one water cooling kit. And I call it a kit, even though it's assembled, because there is a lot of functionality in this thing. We're going to talk about that coming up right after this.
Dude.
What?
It's so small.
You really think so?
What does the wife think?
Well, she says it gets the job done.
Mine's not that small.
The Fractal Design Node 202. It's not about how big it is, but all about how you use it. Now, what makes the Predator unique is the fact that EK has taken like their best-selling products and pre-assembled them in a all-in-one water cooling kit format. Basically, it is pre-assembled custom loop. It's not like they took, some sort of a dinky little pump top or block top pump where they put the pump on top of the block and then you just have to kind of hope for the best and hope it lasts and then it's not too noisy. This is a full-fledged custom components pre-assembled by EK. So what they did was they took some of their best parts and put them together for you. But it also keeps it expandable. Let's go ahead and start with the block. The block here is their EK Supremacy MX block. This is like kind of a clear plexi. It's got holes in here where you could add LEDs if you wanted. It's got the backplate pre-installed. The hoses are pre-installed. It's pre-filled, obviously. So it's the same exact block. If you went to EK's online store or Performance PCs or wherever and looked at CPU water blocks, you would find this block sold by itself for people who want to do custom loops, because that's how this block was actually, released first. A custom block for a custom loop. Now the tubing on here is not that cheap FEP flexible tubing that you tend to see that looks like a terrible, terrible heater hose. This is a real 3/8" rubber tube, which as you can see here is very, very flexible. We got no problems maneuvering this thing into position of however you might need it. I think the matte colored black tubing looks amazing on this thing, and it really kind of adds to the overall aesthetic of the kit. Now the pump on this thing is a Lang DDC 12 volt PWM controlled pump. So this is, again, the same pump that you would buy on a standalone if you were building a loop on your own, buying parts. It's a very common pump. Now the radiator here is their CoolStream radiator. In fact, I've been using the CoolStream radiator in my test bench, the triple version, the 360 version, ever since I got the CryoVenom 290 from VisionTech, which included an EK water block loop. I set that up on the test bench, and that's been my cooling scenario ever since for the test bench. So this is a 240 variant with two 120mm Vadar 2200 RPM PWM controlled fans, but you can also get this in a 360 variant. Now you do have a fitting right here that you can use for drain and fill, as well as the top of a little integrated reservoir right here, because the system is expandable. This is designed for you to be able to grow or build the system out as your system grows if you need to add, say, another radiator or another block, like a GPU block or something of that nature. But when it comes to the cooling, if you're doing just a CPU, this is going to be more than enough for just about any CPU on the market. Now what I like is the way that the fans are pre-wired in here using this little control board on the end. So you don't have to worry about hooking up fans anywhere. You don't have to worry about finding enough headers for your fans, because this is going to distribute power based on plugging in this SATA cable right here. So all you've got to do for power is plug in this one cable. So then you've got power for the pump and the fans all taken care of one power plug. You don't have to worry about that. And then you plug in the RPM circuit right here for the PWM channel, and then you're going to be able to control the pump and the fans together through one fan header. That is freaking amazing, because one of the worst parts of putting together a custom loop is trying to figure out where the hell you're gonna plug in all the fans and the pump and then control them all together. EK has done all the legwork right here, and they even have another fan header here. They use the same piece here for the 360, so you could have a third fan plugged in right there, and you are going to be able to control all of that right off this one unit. So all you gotta do is go into your motherboard BIOS or your favorite fan control software if your motherboard has fan control built in, and you can do it all at the same time. Now, the only thing I would have liked to have seen is you can obviously do push-pull on this if you put 2 more fans on the bottom. It would have been nice to have seen extra headers on here if you were going to do push-pull, because we only have 1 extra fan header here, but room for 2 more fans, at least on this unit. So if you were going to do push-pull, then you are going to be stuck with the other 2 fan headers having to be controlled somewhere else. Now, you might have noticed this thing is a little bit thicker than your average all-in-one water cooling unit. In fact, it's 68 millimeters thick. So you're going to want to make sure you have plenty of clearance, not only for the 68 millimeters of thickness, but also the tubes coming off the bottom in your case to make sure this isn't going to interfere with your motherboard in any way. Now here's how we're going to test this thing out, and some people may say this isn't fair, but I don't care because it's all EK stuff we're testing here. Is we're going to take the Coolstream 360 millimeter radiator setup I have right now on the test bench, cooling my 5930K at 4.4 gigahertz. We're going to do a base test on that, get temperature readings. Then we're going to hook this guy up to the 5930K and we're going to compare. So we're going to see how this all-in-one water cooling loop that's a 240 variant with the Predator fans compares to the 360 variant. And we're going to see whether or not, this thing actually does what it's designed to do. Is it going to keep an overclocked 5930K nice and cool? I think we already know the answer to that, but let's just go ahead and see how cool it can actually keep it.
Transition.
Okay, so we ran the test here for about 10 minutes, as you can see in AIO, which is a stress test. So we're stressing the CPU as hard as we possibly can when we do this. So keep in mind the temperatures you're going to see here are absolute worst case scenarios, because we are doing floating point, we are doing cache, we are stressing the CPU, we're even stressing the system memory. So this is doing as much heat damage as we can to the CPU to see what happens. So our minimums here were in the mid to upper 30s, and our maximums on the core 1 through 6 range anywhere from 70 to 81. So we have about 11 degrees swing between the cores, which is actually pretty normal. But we're sitting here, it looks like, okay, so core 1, 74, 70, 81, 73, 80, and 72, with a max package temp of 86. So this is actually really good, considering this is a 6-core, or it's a hex core, not extreme, but enthusiast CPU that is being stressed as hard as we possibly could. And that is at 1.312 volts. So you can see the voltage is not super high, but it's also not low. So I think these temperatures are fantastic for the voltage, but it should be. It's a triple radiator custom loop. So how does the Predator perform? Let's find out. All right, so I was installing this thing, or trying to install it in my ASRock motherboard, and I came across a design flaw that I think is important that I point out. So as you can see right here, we have got the retention clip is held on with a C-clip right there. These are not designed to come off. And it's designed to be a dual purpose, where the longer, thinner thread right here will push all the way through the motherboard, and then it will thread on to the retention bracket behind the motherboard to hold it in place. And then for X79 and X99 2011-3, technically any 2011 socket, they use the same retention clips. It's designed for this small part to push all the way through the bracket, for the thick part to thread in. Well, here's the problem with that. My ASRock board doesn't actually have holes that go all the way through the motherboard. Neither does the Gigabyte X99 UD4P. As you can see right there, there's the socket hole. It's solid. It doesn't go through. And I thought, well, geez, how many motherboards are like this? So I grabbed another motherboard out of my closet, the X99 Gaming 7, and you can see those do have the holes. See how the holes go all the way through the socket right there? So that's a whole different retention mechanism, supplier that MSI used. So I cannot mount this thing onto my ASRock as it is shipped, in the state that it's currently shipped in, because I can't push them through the holes right there. So if you've got an X99, this is not going to affect any of the LGA-775 or LGA11XX, 1150, 1151. It's not going to affect any of those, because they all have holes that go all the way through because you have to use a retention bracket. So if you are on an X99 or an X79, you need to look on your motherboard before you buy this to see if it actually has the hole to allow this portion of the thread to push through. I can go forward with my review because I still have the 2011 retention set from the Supremacy block that is on the motherboard now from the custom loop. And I'm just going to undo the C-clips on the block with the Predator, and I'm going to use these to hold it down so I can do that test. But you, if you're looking at buying the Predator, need to check your motherboard and see if you have the holes in the retention threads or not. So those stupid C-clips are proving more difficult to get off than I had hoped. So now, for the sake of bringing you guys this video, I am literally taking a drill to my motherboard. Oh dear. Go slow. Whew! That is not a comforting feeling at all. Sure hope I don't brick the thing. This is probably the most stupid thing I've ever done. Blow all that shit off of there, and my God, I hope my test bench isn't dead now. Well, guys, I killed it. And I don't mean like, yeah, I did it. I meant I killed it. Oh, this sucks, but hey, my learning experiences can also be yours. So I drilled the holes all the way through because I looked at my Gigabyte board and went, oh, okay, well they took these holes into account on the traces, so there's nothing in the way there when it comes to traces. Well, that's true for the Gigabyte board. However, that is not true for the ASRock board. So if you look here closely, you'll see I drilled right through some of the traces. Oh man, I don't like killing motherboards because of stupid mistakes. So let this be a lesson to you, the talking finger telling you to check before you drill. Anyway, we went ahead and performed the mod on the X99 UD4P, and as you can see, there is nothing in the way of those holes. Those holes were already there. I just had to punch out the middle of them. So we're going. Now we just need to check and see that I didn't kill my CPU and my my RAM and all that stuff. Keep your fingers crossed, my lord. Okay, well, it's installed now. We've got the Gigabyte UD4P in there now, and if I said I wasn't disappointed that I killed my ASRock board, I'd be lying. But anyway, it's important to also know that that was not EK Waterblock's fault. That was my fault for not looking before I drilled. But I did talk to EK before completing this video because I wanted to know how they were going to address the X99 issue there. And they did basically say that there is a note on their website saying ASRock and Gigabyte are pretty much using non-standard sockets, and that would be a problem right now for people who have those motherboards. However, they did say that they're going to be including hardware for you to swap out for particular motherboards that may not be compatible with their particular mechanism of mounting. So anyway, now that everything is working, thank God I didn't kill my CPU or the RAM or the Titan X that was in there, because when you drill through traces like that and then you stick metal posts in there, you cause all kinds of problems. But anyway, let's move forward. Let's go ahead and benchmark this thing. I've got all the parameters identical. 1.31 volts on the V-Core, 44 multipliers for a 4.4 gigahertz overclock. Temperature in the room is identical to what it was earlier, and we've got the Predator hooked up now. So let's go ahead and kind of do a jump cut here and come back with the results. Okay, the test has been running for just over 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and stop it. What's cool is when the moment you stop the test, the PWM circuit sends to the all-in-one, and then the fans ramp down and they ramp up based on PWM load. So let's go ahead and look at the statistics here. As you can see, we've got minimums, we're sitting in the mid-30s to low 40s, and the maximums here, 80, 71, 83, 73, 83, 72, and then the CPU package 86. So we're within a couple of degrees of a custom loop, and the thermal paste on here hasn't even had a time to cure. I just put the thing on, I put the thermal paste on, then I put on the block, and then ran the test, whereas the other block was on here for months and was nice and cured. So these temps would actually come down over time. But as you can see, the speeds were the same. CPU clock 4.4, voltage 1.310. So as you can see, we are getting custom loop performance on a smaller radiator and an all-in-one loop. That's cool. Let's go ahead and do some final thoughts here. Now I could have just as easily left out the whole part where I killed the motherboard and just started over, but you know, part of doing this, especially when you start modding things or you start customizing, is things can go wrong. And I've killed a 780 through bad BIOS. I've now killed a motherboard because I just blindly drilled through it without looking behind there. And I learned a lesson today, and one that I can guarantee that I will not repeat, but I leave these mistakes in here when they happen because you guys can learn from that. But anyway, there you go. I hope this has helped you guys decide that maybe water cooling custom loops isn't for you, but you do have options out there where you can get the same benefits of those temperatures without having to do all of the legwork or all the custom building. You can literally just bolt it in as long as it takes to mount down the block, plug in 2 cables, and then mount the fans to the top of your case or the front of your case or wherever you're gonna put it. So there you go, guys. Make sure you check out the link down in the description if you want to pre-order this thing. I'm not getting any kickbacks, no affiliates or anything, but this is probably one of the most anticipated water coolers on the market. And we're going to review, we're going to do a couple other tests in the future here where we compare it to a SwiftTech 220X, because I think that's the most common cooler that people are going to ask about. And we're going to also compare it to the Corsair H100. And this thing coming in, yeah, $200 US sounds like a lot. But go and look up the price of a Lane DDC, a 240mm Coolstream radiator, a small inexpensive reservoir, because remember you need a reservoir, as well as a EK supremacy block. Add those all together, plus the fittings, plus the coolant, plus the tubing, and let's see if you can build it for 200 bucks. You're not going to build something this nice for 200, so I think the price is definitely right on this. All right, guys, time to get out of here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on social media, and if you're not there, then I will see you in my next video.
I can't believe I killed the fucking motherboard. I got really lucky that I didn't kill the CPU, RAM, and GPU hooked up to it, or anything else plugged into the motherboard for that matter. When you start drilling through traces and then bridging them with a screw, terrible things can happen. So let this be a lesson to you. Look before you drill. I'm fortunate that I had another motherboard laying around. You guys more than likely don't, so please learn from my mistake. God, Jay is a dickhole.